The international airport was already awake before sunrise, with long glass halls filled with soft footsteps, rolling suitcases, and quiet announcements echoing through the air. People moved quickly with tired faces, holding tickets, phones, and coffee cups. The smell of food mixed with clean metal and polished floors, creating the familiar feeling of travel. Security officers stood alert near every checkpoint, watching calmly as crowds passed by. Officer Mark walked slowly beside his K9 partner Rex near the luggage screening area. Mark was tall and calm, with years of experience written in his steady movements. Rex was a strong brown dog with focused eyes and a sharp nose, trained to notice what humans often missed. Rex moved with confidence, ignoring noise, voices, and rushing feet. His leash stayed loose because Mark trusted him completely. Rex had worked at the airport for many years and had seen everything from lost bags to tense moments that required fast action. He never acted without reason, and Mark respected that bond built through long training and real situations. The morning felt normal at first, with nothing unusual in sight. Bags rolled across floors, machines hummed softly, and guards nodded to one another. As they approached a quieter corner near a secondary luggage holding area, Rex slowed his pace. His ears lifted, and his steps became careful. Mark noticed immediately and adjusted his grip on the leash without pulling. Rex lowered his head closer to the ground, sniffing the air with purpose. His body language changed from relaxed to focused. Near the wall stood a black suitcase placed slightly away from others. It was not broken or damaged, and had a neat lock with no visible tag attached. It looked ordinary and clean, like thousands of other bags passing through every day, yet Rex stopped directly in front of it. His muscles tightened and his tail froze. Mark whispered Rex's name calmly, but Rex did not move. He stared at the suitcase as if nothing else existed around them. Travelers continued walking, unaware of what was happening. Then Rex began to bark loud, sharp, and repeated. The sound cut through the airport noise and caused nearby people to stop and turn. A woman pulling a trolley stepped back, holding her child close. A man looked confused as he scanned the area. Mark raised one hand, signaling nearby security officers. His expression stayed calm, but serious. He knew Rex's voice, and this was not a mistake. Officer Lisa, who worked nearby, hurried over. She had trained with Rex before and trusted him fully. When she saw Rex barking, her face tightened. She quickly helped guide people away from the area using clear, calm gestures. Guards formed a loose circle, creating distance between the suitcase and the crowd. The airport atmosphere shifted from routine to alert. Conversations lowered, and movement slowed. The suitcase sat silently on the floor, drawing attention like a shadow. Everyone waited without understanding why. Mark knelt beside Rex and placed a steady hand on his back. Rex continued barking with purpose, refusing to look away. Mark spoke quietly into his radio, requesting additional security support. His voice was controlled, but firm. He described the location and situation clearly. Years of experience guided every word and movement. He knew staying calm helped prevent panic. Within minutes, more officers arrived. They extended the safety area and redirected passengers along different paths. Announcements were made asking travelers to follow staff instructions without fear or urgency. The goal was safety without chaos. Rex barking echoed off the walls and ceilings, making the tension stronger. Some officers exchanged looks, wondering what could be inside the bag. Many had seen Rex work before and knew this moment mattered. The suitcase remained untouched, waiting. Mark stood and took a step back, giving Rex space. He trusted that Rex's reaction came from something real, something hidden and important. The dog finally paused his barking but stayed locked in position, eyes fixed forward, breathing steady. Time felt stretched as everyone waited for the next step. No one imagined that this quiet corner of the airport held a secret that would soon shock officers, travelers, and the entire city. The black suitcase sat alone, ordinary on the outside, yet carrying a story no one was ready for. The morning that began like any other was about to change in a way that none of them would ever forget. The secured area grew larger as more officers arrived and placed barriers around the silent suitcase. The noise of the airport faded into a distant hum as travelers were guided away through other paths. Faces showed fear, curiosity, and confusion, but no one argued. Everyone sensed something serious was unfolding. Officer Mark stood near Rex, holding the leash firmly, but gently. Rex no longer barked, yet his body stayed tense. His eyes never left the suitcase, and his breathing was slow and controlled. Mark trusted this silence even more than the barking. It meant Rex was sure. The special response team entered the area with careful steps, wearing protective gear and moving with quiet focus. Their leader gave short hand signals, and the team formed positions around the bag. No one rushed. Every action followed training and patience. Lisa stood beside Mark, watching closely. She had worked in airport security for many years, but moments like this never felt routine. Her thoughts moved between worry and hope. She prayed silently that nothing dangerous would be found, but she also trusted Rex's instincts. A scanning device was brought forward and slowly passed over the suitcase. The device made soft signals that echoed lightly in the quiet space. Officers leaned in, watching the readings. The signals were unclear, not showing what they expected. This made the tension heavier, not lighter. The team leader decided the suitcase needed to be opened in a controlled way. He gave instructions, and the bag was carefully lifted onto a secure surface behind a reinforced barrier. Rex was guided a short distance back, but remained alert. His ears stayed lifted, and his head followed every movement. Passengers waiting far away watched from behind glass walls. Some held phones, but officers signaled them to stop recording. Respect and safety mattered more than curiosity. The airport staff worked smoothly, guiding people and keeping calm voices. The team used special tools to unlock the suitcase without breaking it. The lock opened quietly with a soft click. That sound felt loud in the silence. Everyone held their breath. The lid was lifted slowly, revealing neatly folded clothes on top: shirts, pants, and a light jacket arranged carefully. It looked normal, almost too normal. Some officers relaxed slightly, thinking maybe this was a false alert. Mark did not move. His eyes stayed sharp. He knew Rex never reacted without reason. Lisa noticed his stillness and shared his concern. The team leader raised a hand, signaling no one to assume anything yet. One by one, the clothes were removed carefully. Beneath them was thick padding placed tightly across the bottom of the suitcase. This was unusual. Travelers did not pack like this unless they wanted to protect or hide something. The padding was lifted slowly and revealed a small metal box inside. It was rectangular, worn and scratched with tiny holes along its sides. The box was locked and wrapped with tape. The air around it felt heavy. A faint sound came from inside the box, soft, weak, and uneven. At first some thought it was a machine, but then the sound became clearer. It was breathing. Lisa placed a hand over her mouth, her eyes filled with shock and fear. Mark felt his chest tighten. He stepped forward instinctively, but stopped as the team leader signaled for control. The box was carefully opened by trained hands. Inside was a small child wrapped tightly in blankets. The child was alive, but weak. His eyes were half open, and his breathing shallow. His face was pale and tired. For a moment no one spoke. The sight was too powerful. The busy airport felt far away. The officers saw not a case or a task, but a life that had been hidden and nearly lost. Rex sat down calmly, as if he understood his job was complete. Mark knelt beside him, placing a hand on his head. His voice shook as he whispered, "Thanks." Rex leaned slightly into the touch, steady and proud. Medical staff were called immediately and rushed to the scene. They moved quickly yet gently, lifting the child with great care. Oxygen was given, and warm blankets wrapped around him. The child made a small sound and held weakly onto a medic's sleeve. Tears filled many eyes, even among those trained to stay strong. Lisa turned away briefly to collect herself, then returned focused and ready to help. Security teams moved fast to secure records and camera footage. Officers began tracing the suitcase, origin checking tags, logs, and security scans. Every detail mattered now. The airport slowly began to breathe again, but nothing felt the same. People whispered stories to one another, already calling the moment unbelievable. Many looked toward Rex with new respect. What began as a simple bark had uncovered a hidden truth and saved a life. The full story was only beginning, and the impact of this moment would soon reach far beyond the airport walls. The medical team moved fast but gentle as they carried the child away from the secured area. The child stayed quiet, holding onto the blanket with weak hands. His eyes moved slowly, taking in faces, lights, and shadows that felt strange and overwhelming. The sound of airport noise slowly returned, but it felt distant and unreal. Officer Mark followed a few steps behind, watching closely. His heart felt heavy, yet hopeful. He had trained for danger and threats, but nothing prepared him for seeing a child hidden in silence. Rex walked beside him, calm and steady as always. Lisa stayed near the medical team, offering help where needed. She spoke softly to the child, using simple, comforting words. The child did not answer, but seemed to hear her voice. His breathing slowly became steadier as warmth and care surrounded him. The child was placed onto a stretcher and guided through a quiet corridor reserved for emergencies. Airport staff cleared the way quickly. Doors opened without delay. Everyone understood the importance of every second. As the medical team worked, officers began their investigation. Security cameras were reviewed and luggage records checked carefully. Every bag had a story, and this one had to be traced from the beginning. Computer screens filled with numbers, times, and names. Officers worked together, quietly, focused, and determined. It did not take long to find the suitcase record. The bag had been checked in earlier that morning under the name Paul. He had passed through security without trouble, and was now waiting near his departure gate. Officers moved calmly toward the gate, avoiding panic or attention. Paul stood near the window holding a small travel bag. He looked normal, just another traveler waiting to leave. When officers approached and spoke his name, he looked surprised, then nervous. He was guided away politely and questioned in a private area. At first he claimed the suitcase was not his, then he said he was asked to deliver it for someone else. His words changed, and his hands shook as officers continued asking clear, steady questions. Back in the medical room, the child was given water and warm care. Doctors checked his condition and shared hopeful looks. They said the child was weak but stable and would recover with proper care. This news brought quiet relief to everyone listening. Mark stood outside the room leaning against the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the tension ease. Rex sat beside him, pressing close, offering comfort in his own way. Mark rested his hand on Rex's head, filled with gratitude. Lisa joined them after finishing her duties. She looked tired, but calm. She spoke softly about the child condition and the progress being made. Her voice carried relief and strength. Word of the event spread through the airport. People whispered stories and pointed toward the secured area. Many spoke of the brave dog who refused to ignore danger. Staff members shared looks of respect and pride. The airport slowly returned to its routine. Flights departed and arrived. People walked once more, pulling suitcases and checking screens. Yet the feeling had changed. Something important had happened, and many felt it deeply. Later that day, Mark and Lisa visited the hospital where the child was taken. The room was quiet and clean. The child slept peacefully wrapped in fresh blankets. Machines hummed softly, showing steady signs of life. Mark felt a weight lift from his chest. Seeing the child safe brought meaning to every long day and night he had spent training Rex. He knew that one moment of attention and trust had saved a life. Rex lay quietly at his feet, eyes half closed but alert as always. Mark smiled gently and whispered praise. Lisa watched with a warm expression, understanding the bond between them. The investigation continued quietly and carefully, but one truth was already clear: a simple bark had changed everything. A voice without words had spoken when it mattered most. This was not the end of the story, but it was a turning point, one that reminded everyone that even in the busiest places hope could still be found when someone listened closely. Days passed after the airport incident, and the story continued to unfold quietly but deeply. The child remained in the hospital under careful watch. Doctors and nurses worked with patience and kindness, bringing warmth, food, and gentle voices. The child slowly grew stronger each day. His eyes became brighter, and his breathing steadier. The fear that once filled the room slowly faded into calm. Officer Mark visited the hospital often, always during quiet hours. He never wore his uniform there. He wanted the space to feel safe and peaceful, not official. Rex stayed with him, sitting calmly near the bed. The child noticed Rex first and reached out with small hands. Rex moved closer, carefully resting his head near the bed. The child smiled for the first time since arriving. That smile meant more than any award Mark had ever received. It reminded him why he chose this work and why training and trust mattered. Lisa visited as well, bringing small toys and warm words. She spoke gently and stayed only a short while, respecting the calm of the room. The investigation moved forward with steady focus. Officers worked through records, interviews, and travel routes carefully. Every detail was reviewed. No shortcuts were taken. The goal was truth and protection, not noise or attention. Paul remained in custody as authorities searched for others connected to the case. He spoke little now and avoided eye contact. The full story was still being uncovered, but what mattered most had already happened. A life had been saved. At the airport, staff meetings were held to review the incident. Officers spoke openly about what they felt and learned. Many admitted the moment had stayed with them long after their shifts ended. The image of the suitcase and the quiet child inside was something none of them would forget. Rex became a symbol across the airport. Passengers asked about him, and staff shared his story quietly with pride. Some children waved when they saw him working. Rex remained calm, as always, unaware of the attention. He continued doing what he was trained to do. A small ceremony was planned by airport leadership. It was simple and respectful. Officers gathered in a quiet hall. Mark stood beside Rex, holding the leash. Lisa stood nearby, smiling softly. Words of thanks were spoken, not loudly, but with meaning. Rex received a gentle medal placed carefully around his neck. He remained still and calm, accepting it without reaction. Mark felt emotion rise but kept his voice steady when asked to speak. He thanked his team and spoke about trust training and listening. He said that Rex was not a hero because he was special, but because he did his job with heart and focus. The room stayed silent in respect. After the ceremony, life continued. Flights departed and arrived. People rushed, laughed, waited, and traveled. The airport returned to its rhythm, yet something had changed. A quiet awareness remained that even in ordinary moments extraordinary things could happen. At the hospital, the child was prepared to move to a care home where safety and support would continue. The child held onto Rex's collar gently before leaving. Mark watched closely, making sure the moment stayed calm and kind. As they walked away, Mark felt a sense of peace. He knew some days would be hard and some moments heavy, but this one would stay with him as a reminder. That morning at the airport began like any other, with noise, movement, and routine. It ended with a life protected because someone listened and trusted, a bark that refused to be ignored. Sometimes the strongest voice is not loud, and sometimes heroes walk on four legs, guided by instinct, loyalty, and care. This story would be remembered not for fear, but for hope and the power of paying attention when it matters most.